Just this week, the Federal Reserve announced that they would be keeping rates steady for the time being. And instead of cutting interest rates multiple times this year, which is something that many people not only hoped for, but also predicted at the beginning of 2024, the Fed has now set the expectation that they may only be cutting rates one time for 2024. And as we sit here today, interest rates sit at the highest level that they've been at in 23 years and at the same level that they've been at since July of 2023. And according to the Federal Reserve and a White House report from the end of May, the biggest factors impacting inflation are what is known as core services, which includes things like medical care, transportation, insurance, personal services, etc. And I'd like to underscore two key components here, which are insurance costs and automotive costs. Not only does the lack of interest rate cuts affect the car market and the affordability of a car, which we will get into momentarily, but the lack of interest rate cuts can actually in some ways be blamed on the affordability of the car market, or I should say the lack of affordability, as well as the maintenance cost of vehicles, insurance costs, and all-around operational costs of owning a car. Now, I did a deep dive of insurance costs in a recent video. I will link that video down in the description below if you want to check it out. But insurance and automotive costs are actually one of the key drivers as to why inflation hasn't cooled down as much as people may have hoped. According to a report from last month, while costs of things like food and energy have cooled down in recent months, the cost of insurance has continued to rise between 1% and 3% month over month. And in the last year, insurance premiums have increased by over 20%. Cost aside, the act of finding an insurance company has also become a growing problem, with many insurance companies leaving different parts of the country, leaving insurance seekers with less options, and the ones that are still available are significantly more expensive. So while the consumer price index has risen by 3.3% year over year, insurance cost has risen by 20.3% according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. In fact, the vice president of insurance operations with AAA was quoted in saying, "The severity is really the thing that has influenced rates more over the last 2 years than anything. A fender bender in the past didn't have all the sensors and cameras." But it isn't just insurance. Nearly every aspect of owning a car has also become more expensive. Now, this report that I'm about to talk about is from the beginning of the year, so some of the data points may be a bit different, but it is going to be fairly spot on. According to the Wall Street Journal, insurance has increased by 20.6% year over year. Parking and other fees have went up by 3.8%, and maintenance and repair costs have gone up by 6.5%, but according to different reports in the month of April, maintenance and repair costs are estimated to have gone up by a whopping 8.5%. All the while, CPI has increased by 3.3%, so all of these different components of owning a car, they're actually outpacing inflation, which isn't a good thing. And this is all without even touching the actual cost of buying a car, which, as we all know, is astronomical in and of itself. While the used car market has gone down by 12.1% year over year, the new car market hasn't had such a change, though new car prices are going down. According to KBB, in the month of May, new car prices actually went down by 1%, and the average cost of a new car was $48,389, which again is 1% less than a year ago. In fact, the article that I pulled this data from was titled, "What Inflation Average New Car Prices Fell Again in May," which is ironic in the context of this video. And while I must admit, we have to celebrate the wins whenever we have them, and the fact that new car prices are falling 1% year over year, that's a win. But we also can't forget the fact that new car prices have increased by over 30% since 2019, while the inflation during this exact same period of time was 22.6%. So again, the increase in car prices and operational costs of owning a car have increased at a higher rate than inflation, which isn't good. So while car prices are going down, we can't forget that over the course of the last 5 years, car prices have still outpaced inflation. And the thing that's extremely unfortunate is that the price to own and operate a car is sort of a big domino effect, with the very first domino in the row being the cost of the car itself. It's no secret that cars have not only become significantly more expensive, but they've also become significantly more complex over the years. With electric vehicles, autopilot, high-tech cars, higher trim, there has been, at least in my opinion, a bit of a disregard in recent years for the repairability of a car whenever a car is actually being manufactured. It just feels as though automakers don't care as much as they once did about the complexities and costs associated with repairing their vehicles long term. I think one of the best examples of this is the Rivian, which notoriously got featured in multiple news outlets because of the mind-boggling expense of a fender bender. Or the Hummer, which was also in news in recent years for the $6,100 taillight assembly replacement cost. Cars are becoming more complex, they're being made with more expensive parts, with more technology, and as a result, not only are these cars more expensive at the point of purchase, but they're more expensive to repair and thus they're more expensive to insure. So it creates this domino effect that really sort of starts at the point in which automakers decided to really lean into high-trimmed, luxury, high-tech cars that are in turn significantly more expensive. And this has impacted the overall economy. And this is where it really becomes a double-edged sword, because while all of the different items that I've discussed in this video are impacting the economy and inflation, cost of cars, maintenance, repairs, insurance, things like that, and because these factors are impacting inflation, interest rates are continuing to stay high. And because interest rates are continuing to stay high, the affordability of a car really hasn't gone down, despite the fact that car prices have in fact gone down. According to NerdWallet, the average loan rates for a new and used car for a super prime borrower is 5.38% for a new car and 6.8% for a used. But depending on your credit score, rates can vary from anywhere between 5.38% all the way up to 21.57%. And you can see here that with new cars, monthly car payments are still going up, and this is in large part due to interest rates. And in the case of used cars, even though the total loan amount has decreased by in some cases hundreds of dollars, the actual monthly payment that people are paying for their cars is either unchanged or has increased. At this point, interest rates are a key component as to why cars are extremely unaffordable. But the sheer cost of a car is also causing interest rates to not go down, or at least it's one of the contributing factors. And so this is sort of an unfortunate chicken or the egg situation. What is going to fall first, car prices or interest rate? The good news is that with interest rates still high, while affordability of a vehicle is no doubt affected, this is going to result in continued slower demand because with high interest rates, cars are still too expensive. And this should in turn cause demand to continue to slow down, and it should cause for car prices to continue to go down as well because of the slowing demand. Dealership inventory is going to continue piling up, and as a result, dealerships will have no other choice but to offer more incentives, which is overall a good thing. In fact, we are already seeing this across multiple makes, models, and dealerships throughout the country. But on the flip side, it really doesn't solve the problem and what's really the crux of the issue, which is the fact that cars are just simply too unaffordable. Car makers abandoning the affordable car in favor of high-trimmed, option-out variants was one of the worst things automakers could have done for consumers. And this is absolutely having an impact on inflation, interest rates, and the overall economy. And this is especially true in America, where in many parts of the country, having a car isn't considered a want, but is instead a need. And until there's a major swing in car prices, either by forced price reductions due to a slump in demand, or potentially automakers lowering their pricing or reintroducing lower-end models, I worry that until something like this happens, then not much is going to change. And in turn, inflation could be stickier than we'd like it to be. But at least in the short term, the Fed's decision to keep rates still is absolutely going to have an impact on the car market and should hopefully drive prices even further down. But like always, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it, so make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell. And I'll see you guys in the next video.